Hello everyone, and welcome back to the MedTech stage at the Biotech Future Forum. As you know, I'm Elena, your virtual host. Today's panel, Transforming Healthcare, Advancing Medicine for Tomorrow, will explore how biotechnology is revolutionizing healthcare. Please welcome our esteemed moderator, Dr. Branka Rakic. Now, let's dive in.
I didn't expect that. Thanks for introduction. So thank you everybody for coming and welcome to today's panel. We will discuss about the transformative power of AI in healthcare. I mean, we are all witnessing how technology and AI is transforming our life from, choosing the right book or choosing the right movie. And there are some things that we are not witnessing as users, as patients, and that's a transformation of healthcare. AI is really reshaping the healthcare, whether it's diagnosis, treatment, or patient care. So from some smaller predictive algorithms to de-risk the population, to enhance the drug discovery, I mean, the potential is really a vast potential. And we have three esteemed speakers that all work in this field, but from different angles, and they will tell us about their journey and their experience. And while we were planning the panel, I was thinking where to start, and then I thought about our work. And whenever we start, where's data. And what everybody is searching for, right data in healthcare and digitalizing the healthcare. And should anyone know about a fully digital healthcare system, that's Denmark. And we have a right person to tell us more about this. So we have Henrik Gibson. So he's a CEO at the Danish virtual care company, OTH.io. He has a computer science background. In 2002, Henrik was a lead architect behind the design and the vision of a national health portal, which was launched in 2003 and covers all citizens and healthcare professionals in Denmark. In 2011, his company also developed and delivered the Danish National Service Platform for Healthcare IT, which made a dream for every scientist that work on this. Integrate and standardized data exchange in healthcare on a scale in Denmark. With a fully diagnosed healthcare system, then he moved on to bringing healthcare to the citizens of Denmark so as to help hospitals become more effective. So since 2000, in the company OTH.io platform has been fully in production across Denmark since 2013. With 9 years of experience in this virtual healthcare, I think you're right authority to help us with this. So please, Henrik.
Thank you. So this is my brain. I used to be a product. Now I'm a consultant, and this is my consulting company, and this is my brain. This is how I think. I've been doing for 20 years, and it's very important for me. I'm trying to click this one. Okay, here we go. Exactly. So it's important for me that you know that I know what I'm talking about, because there's a lot of consultants waving their arms saying blah, 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 blah. I've actually been there. I have scars on my back. So grab my CV and look for yourself. So we all know we have a problem. Everybody here are here because we have a problem, and the WHO have done a very good job of visualizing. We have too few doctors, we have too few nurses, and we have too many people getting diseases. And you heard the story 1,000 times before. So we are strongly motivated to be here and do something about it. So before I start, let me do a magic trick. Let me tell you about stuff in Serbia that you know that I could not possibly know, but know anyway. So we have national challenges in healthcare IT in Serbia. Everybody knows this to some extent. We have big ambitions. Politicians have big arm movements and lots of money and say, oh, we're going to do blah, 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 blah. And then, yeah, right, they're going to have it. But they're understaffed. The government agency, they don't have the right people because they can't pay for it. They also do not have experience building infrastructure because they haven't done it before, so how could they? They also have a dysfunctional governance because they don't talk together. They all think they should be in charge. So this boss wants to do this and this boss, and they don't talk. They just different directions, and it's like, come on. And then you have someone actually manages to build a system that works. And this, yay, but it's only one. And then they're very proud of it, but it doesn't solve a problem. It's just like one place that works. This could be university hospital or a register for medications, whatever. But it's not enough, is it? Then we have pilotitis. You know the word pilotitis? Yeah? I can hear people laughing. They know it. Yeah, exactly. We have a lot of that. And then we have a time pressure. It has to be finished by tomorrow, right? No time. And because of the politicians, it has to be finished in my election period. So within the next 2 years, otherwise people don't remember that I did it. So here is 2 million euros. Finish the project in 6 months, and you have to do a project that takes 10 years. Can you do that? No, I can only fail. Okay, when can you begin, right? Jesus Christ. And then we don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the means of communication and transportation. We cannot do it because we don't have it. But anyway, the politicians say, we want to build this, we want to build an airport. We don't have any planes yet, but who cares, right? Then, well, we don't have the standards either. We know they exist, but we have not implemented them because our medical record is like 15 years old and they doesn't implement the fire records or the HL7 or anything else. It doesn't even communicate, It's problematic. And then we have, the most conservative system in the world, the healthcare system. And any doctors present? Okay, I hope you have a sense of humor because I'm kind of going to joke on you. So what is the difference between a supervising doctor and God? What is the answer? God knows he's not a doctor. So we want it to be fast and cheap and good, right? And we probably succeed with fast, but that is the problem. So we need to do something. And what we have is this. We have a lot of silos, unintegrated, separate platforms, and this is even optimistic, but you don't have 8 systems that work. You have maybe 1, maybe 2, 2.5. But this is ideally you have a lot of silos. And there's no integrations, there's no coordinations, there's no future in this. It doesn't work. You need to do something, and it's not good enough to go and say, we want to have a national patient medical record, because that doesn't manifest by itself. It takes a lot of infrastructure, a lot of basis, a lot of platform to do that. So you need to build an open source infrastructure, because if you don't, you're going to pay $1 billion to Oracle or some other idiot company that doesn't really do anything except take your money. It doesn't provide value. You need to build an open source infrastructure. We did that in Denmark in 2011. It takes 5 to 10 years to make it complete, but it's a good idea. And you need to build on a national level. You need to have open ecosystem that everybody can access, well documented, well qualified, and you need to start with the basis. That's the way you begin. You need to standardize it. You need to build data repositories. You need to look into the data structures from the EU and the AI Act to have good AI implementations and common basic services. This is important, but why? It's important because there's a lot of stuff we only want to build one time. Because if you build silos, that every time you build a system, you need to have user management, security, logging, backup, all kinds of stuff that should only be built one time so everybody can use it. So the whole idea about a platform is you build it one time and then everybody can use it, so the application you put on top for the patient record, for the consent management becomes much easier, because all of these non-functional demands are difficult, it takes time. So if you do it only once, then you have leapfrogged the entire progression of healthcare in Serbia far forward by a quantum leap. It's a scoop. So this is basically what we want to do. We want to have a health cloud. We want to have a health cloud where all this basic stuff is managed one time and for all, based on open source standards, based on open source architecture and components that everybody knows and uses, and put together in a way that you can operate it and make it available for entrepreneurs, startup companies, IT companies, so they build on this publicly owned open source. So it's easy to add new components. And then you can start saying, okay, what do we want? We want medical record, identity service, patient registry, document archive, document sharing, SNOMED register, medication list, lab result, all that stuff we need. But the first thing we need is identification, unique identification, only one place. And we need to build it in a way that no vendor owns the databases. It has to be publicly owned. So there's a recipe for this. And we started doing this in Denmark in 2011. It's not rocket science, but it takes a lot of time. So anyone want to guess how long time it takes for establishing a platform until it's completely utilized by the healthcare sector? Any guesses? Anyone? 5 years? Good guess. Anyone? 10? 11? Oh, we built it in 2011, and it was completely utilized by 2019, more or less. And every single IT system in Denmark, municipality, regional, private hospital, private doctors, government agencies, government database, is integrated into that standardized infrastructure. And is owned by the government. And that's the key. So we need to find out who in the government has the intelligence, the energy, and the money to do this. But that's your job. I'm just going to say that it takes time and experience, but it can be done. So get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrik. Very exciting, and we have a lot to talk, which we'll do later. So each of the speakers will first present, and then we will have a panel discussion. So now we kind of figured out the data. I know that it's a lot of work for us. And then, what to do with data? We can build new tools, and also you can implement new tools. And that's why we have today with us George Francis. He's a channel manager of Europe, Middle East, and Africa for a company called Gleamer. Don't let the title deceive you. He's engineer, biomedical engineering, bachelor and master degree in medical imaging. And he will talk more about the Gleamer. I just wanted to say that the Gleamer is this, for how I see Gleamer, is this young, hype company, very innovative, and it's at the forefront of AI in radiology. He will probably talk more, but it's from tumor detection to bone fraction. So please, Jojo.
Thank you for the introduction. First, I don't have 30 years of experience because I'm not even 30 years old yet. But I can share with you today our success story at Gleamer, building AI solutions and being adopted worldwide today. So a quick introduction about Gleamer. We're a French company headquartered in beautiful Paris. We've been founded in 2017, and ever since we've been developing AI solutions based on fundings that we've been getting, and also FDA clearance, CE clearance. Today, we're one of the leaders in AI and radiology, with more than 20 publications, clinical studies in worldwide journals. We've been adopted in the biggest luminary sites across the globe, like Charité Berlin, AP-HP Paris, UCLA in the US. And we work closely with the biggest luminary radiologists across the globe to help us develop our solutions. All of this today allowed us to have 2,000 hospitals that are using our solution in clinical routine, and we process 30 million patient exams a year. What we built at Gleamer is the Gleamer Copilot. We started our journey with a main focus on X-rays. I don't know if we have any radiologists here or not, but if you ask any radiologist, the most tedious exam to read today is X-ray, because they want to save time and go faster on them. So we built the whole package, focusing on trauma, chest, measurements, bone age, and our idea and vision is to develop more AI solutions to cover more of the radiologist activity. So we're developing mammo and tomo and oncology CT. Regarding integration, it's really easy to use. It's really integrated into the existing workflow of the radiologist. So we automatically process the exams and send back the results for them to see it in their existing workflow. If we take the first solution that we developed, bone view trauma, that can detect fractures, effusions, dislocations, bone lesions, all the body part, the way it will work is as soon as they get the native images, looking into their PACS viewer, they will get the Gleamer summary table and bounding boxes showing where the fracture is located. So it's quite easy, as you can see, but it really has a huge impact on their daily activity. What we're also building, because we know AI is not only used for diagnostic purposes, but also for gain of time, we're building our own automated reporting tool. With this automated reporting tool, you'll be able to get the report generated automatically, and the radiologist has to sign it off only. One study we did in France, which is really exciting to show you, over 3 months, we picked up all trauma plain film exams. Radiologists reading those exams, of 5,000 exams, they found 668 fractures. We took all those exams and processed them with our AI, and what we found that there were actually 886 fractures. So the radiologist missed 218 in clinical routine that the AI picked up. On the other hand, we missed 17 that they found. So that's why we have a sensitivity of 97.8% and negative predictive value of 99.5%. We also looked at our specificity that was 88%. This study clearly shows that there's no perfect AI solution, as well as there's no perfect clinician or radiologist. However, mixing them together is when we get the best result. We also moved forward to develop more AI solutions like the automated MSK measurements. So today, radiologists have to do the measurements themselves, which take around 15 minutes. With the AI, they can automatically get them in 1 minute. And for this solution, we are praised worldwide because they don't want to do those exams anymore. That's also an example of the scoliosis. And we can cover up to 50 MSK measurements today, so covering different body parts. Third is the bone age as well, an exam that is done in clinical routine that takes around 15 minutes that could be easily automated thanks to the AI. With the frontal hand acquisition, we can generate the results. Same goes for chest. We can generate the result based on the frontal chest x-rays, identifying pneumothorax, lesions, mediastinal masses, nodules, and showing them. What we see as benefits from the Gleamer Copilot is definitely a reduction of waiting time. And what we notice in Europe especially, a huge gain of time in emergency department. With the very high NPV, some hospitals today in France, for example, are not doing a second reading of the x-rays. They're relying on the AI to discharge the negative patients. It's also helping to reduction of any medical complication that we see a lot in the US, not mostly in Europe. I don't know if in Serbia you people like to sue each other or not, but in the US it's quite common. Using the AI as a safety net, you can have a second objective point of view as well. Finally is the faster turnaround time. For the last point, it's really important to note, when we first implement our AI, users sometimes hate it because they're losing time, because they always want to challenge the AI. What did it do wrong? Where did it miss? However, once they build the trust in it, that's when they go faster on those exams. And that's Gleamer.
Thank you. And now for the end, a lady with a vast experience. And I'm very lucky to have her here on this panel for two reasons. First, she saved the panel. We had a last-minute cancellation. And second thing is that on the first Biotech Future Forum, she was a moderator, and we didn't have a chance to hear her story. So now we do. And I have to read because you have a lot of experience. She's a distinguished biomedical data scientist and technology executive. She has a PhD in computer science, and she specialized in digital health, AI informatics. Currently, Nevenka Dimitrova, I never said the name. Currently, she's designing a new strategy for spatial biology at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, working on longevity and cancer treatments, developing new ones using AI. As a VP of biomedical data at GlaxoSmithKline, she spearheaded transformative digital initiative in pharma R&D, including pioneering cloud and machine learning application. Formerly, she was a CTO of oncology informatics and genomics at Philips, and led the production from concept to market, significantly enhancing a clinical outcome. And she's still a scientist with over 140 publications and 80 patents, and we are very lucky to have her deeply involved in education worldwide. And she has some board roles in Macedonia, at AI Institute of Serbia, in India, and really, as she says, focusing and empowering underdeserved youth in tech. So thank you, Nevenka, please.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And I'm really glad and very proud of what we're doing here. And to me, it's very inspiring to see this vision for the biotech campus in Serbia. And in talking to the minister, and today she outlined her vision, it's really an amazing incubator that's going to move the country forward. So I'm very honored again. So let me talk a little bit about my vision and perspective from RX and DX, so both diagnostics and therapies, and also bedside. I've been working for Philips, for GlaxoSmithKline, and my love for improving patient outcomes was always there. But when my father was diagnosed with glioblastoma, and from a perfectly healthy person, He went from a 5-centimeter tumor to an entire hemisphere in just 3 months. That was a big pullback for me, and I was very happy to publish technical papers, and then I realized that no amount of technology can be interesting until it's really useful and practiced in the clinic. So with that, I want to give you kind of a picture of what has impressed me in the last few months. Top left, it's AI. We think of it as the new prescription because it can be used not only in discovery, but also in the delivery of care. Also, top right is David Baker. He shares the Nobel Prize for Chemistry this year. And he gave a keynote speech at Computer Vision and Pattern Recognition Conference in Seattle. I talked to him afterwards for like an hour, and along with a large group of graduate students, all excited about how he sees the future of protein design, because he is looking not only at healthcare and designing proteins that are now being tested for pancreatic cancer, which, as you probably know, it's like 5-year survival is like 5%, melanoma and many others, but also proteins that can work for artificial photosynthesis, proteins that will degrade plastics. So all of this work in biotech, here we are focusing on medicine, but has vast impact. And the Rosetta Fold, I've read somewhere, that he used the diffusion model for protein design, has burned something like 1.5 million GPU hours. So it is quite a feat. And also, this morning, Dr. George Yankopoulos, who is a true visionary in turning the drug discovery upside down with the Velocimmune mouse, but many other discoveries, and finding these bottlenecks. And AI, at least to me from the beginning, has been, first of all, a tool for optimization. There is a new definition of AI, which is a co-pilot. It's become a co-pilot, not merely a tool. And according to Yuval Noah Harari, it's actually playing a key role in how humans now and in the future will make decisions. And also Recursion Pharmaceuticals, which is a very innovative drug discovery company that has been using deep learning, computer vision, in looking through millions and millions of images and finding drug targets. I think of this whole space as traversing the scales. So from macro scale, electronic healthcare records, to micro, like digital pathology, whole slide imaging, but also nanoscale, spatial biology, not only sequencing, but in today's world, there is spatial biology, there is spatial proteomics, spatial lipidomics, which brings very large resolution, because in one experiment, for example, on a cell dive, you can layer 50 antibodies, and you can see the proximity and protein-protein interactions in action, in space, in situ, which was never been seen before. These images are a few gigabytes each. They are not 2 megabytes like on your iPhone, but this is where AI can help. I want to talk, because Branka asked me, give some examples from your own experience. So when I was at Philips, we designed a new software as a service for precision medicine that had a molecular tumor board, as well as genomics reporting and clinical pathways. this was not with AI, this was with the minds of Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And even back then, this is 6 years ago, we used recurrent neural networks for extracting information from clinical trials in order to match those with comprehensive patient portraits. GSK.ai is another one that I'm very excited about. I was part of this group a few years ago, but they have went on and for the last 6 years have implemented many AI algorithms. And 2 examples here. One is they used autoencoders in order to find subgroups of heterogeneity response in a phase 2b clinical trial. And this was for chronic hepatitis B subtypes. And the type of therapy was antisense oligonucleotide therapy, which to me, it's truly amazing because you can see the trajectories of response for each patient. Another one is association of shingles vaccine and reduced risk of dementia. And for this, they use data from 115 million patients, the identified data. So this is where the power of such huge data sets and data that, for example, Henrik has introduced in the world, having good annotated data over many, many patients can bring such positive outcomes. So you basically have 20% reduced risk over 5 years with this shingles vaccine. I also want to mention a few examples. I'm not going to go in detail, but there is a company, Exscientia, if you pronounce it in European English, or Exscientia if you pronounce it in American English. But it's really an AI-driven company that has applied AI at every single stage of drug discovery, meaning from target discovery, also very high precision chemistry for hit and lead optimization, as well as for introducing into clinical trials. And they have this DSP 1181, which was developed for treating obsessive compulsive disorder. So this company, by the way, is now acquired by Recursion Pharmaceuticals for $688 million. So AI is worth something after all. And then Benevolent AI, which is another great example. So they first achieved FDA approval in 2022, but they didn't start from scratch. They did drug repurposing. They used vast amount of chemical libraries, of vast amount of data, and very sophisticated algorithms in order to find and to get authorization to use Lilly's Olumiant COVID-19 drug. And God forbid another pandemic, this can be a way to very quickly see how we can repurpose drugs. Another one is in silico medicine, and Branka reminded me that actually their CEO was 2 years ago.
No, last year
on the panel here. So he has been here. But they've started, and they have this kinase inhibitor, which is for the treatment of idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis. And now I think they're in phase 2 trial. But all of the processes from target discovery, which is the first one, the lead optimization, all of the experiments that they did to show excellent activity in cell-based assays, enzymatic assays, etc., and then further in vitro and in vivo. In the preclinical world, many drugs or drug targets fail. So if you have a very powerful method to design these experiments and conduct them, then also that can introduce quite a bit of speed up, as well as the, furthermore, the preclinical results for this drug, INS 1855, exhibits quite a bit of considerable antibiotic and anti-inflammatory efficacy. Now, I only have a couple of slides, but I think of AI, if it can solve AlphaGo and chess, why don't we play chess with cancer? And why can't we have models that would be able to take us from a healthy state to a pre-malignant to cancer, but also models that can take us back and help with drug discovery. And also therapy resensitization, because as you know, people become insensitive to chemo, also radiation, and we need ways to reverse that. So for this, all of these very important nanobiology type of questions can be answered, like key communication pathways, how to find cell subpopulations, how to analyze the spatial dynamics between all of these molecules. This is very important. And I just wanted to bring up this particular picture because when they asked Sam Altman how much was spent on GPT-4, I believe he said $100 million. So while it used to be a few tens of thousands of dollars over the last 9 years, this kind of hunger for processing power and training these large AI models, it has become very big, which is why I think there is still room for what is called now tiny ML, which is you're not using and burning GPUs, but you're designing more clever algorithms. And I do want to talk about data. So maybe in one of the answers.
Yeah.
Yes, and my key takeaway points, which for me, the ultimate goal really is to support diagnostic and treatment clinical decisions, to have more systems thinking, meaning of all the different scales in medicine and biology, to traverse these spaces with AI models, and also to convert this tremendous investment that has been done so far. Just one example, so Meta, the Facebook company, spends something like $20 billion per year on AI. And most of that they put in public domain. So you can go on Hugging Face and download it. So if you don't have money to train a model, you can fine-tune a model. And I believe that that can be of tremendous help for AI in healthcare.
Thank you, Nevenka. Very good point. Thank you. Please sit. I feel bad. I was sitting all the time. Okay, so let's figure out where to start. And Henrik, you said it's our job. And then what do you think, what is the prerequisite system that is needed to establish the National Electronic Health Record?
Well, you need to establish this cloud solution that is open source, public domain. But the first functional system you have to put it in is digital identity. Mm-hmm. You need to know who are the people. Can you identify everybody uniquely with a digital ID? Because if you cannot, there's no way you can guarantee safe access to data in a national platform unless you have a digital identity. So this is kind of like key. That's where you start.
Okay, thank you. And then for you, Giorgio, again, what would be a prerequisite, or what would you give us as an advice for healthcare institutions, how to prepare, how to start with the AI journey? Like, what do they need to have? Or
So for the AI adoption, as the
Yeah.
first step, is definitely to get the right education on the
Okay.
application that you're using, to understand its benefit, advantages, but also limitation. Setting the expectation right is key for a successful adoption.
I didn't expect that. I thought you would say, like, I don't know, digitalize the health system or...
Not at all, because there's so many AI applications out there, and there's so many solutions. As also you were saying, getting the correct one for your correct workflow is key for successful adoption. Otherwise, you will have solutions jumping from one to another with a lot of failures.
Okay, great, thanks. And Nevenka, you missed the last slide, so I want to ask you now already that. So, as I said, for the start, for the development of AI, data is most important, and you said there's a lot of data out there. So what do you think, what are the key data sources?
So there are many data sources that could be very useful that are in public domain, like GTEx, DepMap. The sequence archive is also available, but you need to submit a proposal and then outline what you will do. You can get access to the data with the approval first from your own institution, because you need to understand the ramifications of accessing this data, and then at the end you have to delete the data. So that's for biology data, and the protein data bank, which has been used by AlphaFold and RosettaFold, that's freely available because it's de-identified. There is not human identifiable data there. But anything that comes from real-world data, which has the aspect of privacy, I think there are great initiatives like Genomic Alliance for Health, so GA for GH. There is also ISO MPEG genomics standard, which has established a very nice way of hierarchically organizing the data, but also can bring 5 to 10x compression of the data. And in AI, we're always worried about data and how much it costs to store and process the data. So that is very important. And finally, it was mentioned this morning by the CEO of GA for GH, Peter Goodhand, HL7 FHIR genomics standard, which also tries to utilize the genomic data, but using the healthcare information systems. And I think bringing these standards and making them collaborate with each other and have cross-standardization activities will increase the utilization of the data, and maybe we will burn less GPUs in the end.
Thank you. And now, I mean, the start seems so easy, just like a digital ID, but it sounded a lot more work when you talked about it, especially between, you said, like miscommunication, let's say it like that, between politicians and healthcare practitioners. So how do we avoid that? How do we foster this communication? And also, importantly, how do we avoid vendors lock-in?
I think that's a lot of question in one. But I think the first one is easy. Well, it's in theory it's easy. So what you do is you put down an agency, and you put in this agency, this is the agency for implementing digital technology in the healthcare sector. And in this agency, you put in the board of directors all the bosses from all the agencies that has a say in this, and you put them on the board and say, you are now co-responsibility for this healthcare digitalization. If you don't participate in the board and don't take responsibility, then you don't get any money and you're out, right? So you hostage them. You put them in the board and say, you are hostage now, and you have to cooperate with the other bosses to bring technology here. And then the agency will be a cross-agency, a cross-government agency that nobody can be against because everybody's on board. So you remove the struggles. This is a political move, and it works. So that's one part. The second part is when you then do the project, then you need to have someone to tell the politicians, shut the fuck up and do something that is not unrealistic. So if you want to national patient register, let's scale it down and start asking all the hospitals, what do you actually have? What data can you exchange? And then you will find out there is a very, very small data set that is actually available throughout the hospitals that you can actually implement. And then you can implement that, and then you're going to tell the politicians to shut up while you do it, because they will be, it's not ambitious enough, it has to be more. They will not be happy with this, but this will work. And in doing so, when you build this health cloud, you have to be reliant on databases that are open source, that are great open source databases. And you can put a lot of different databases in one platform, but you have to own the API on the cloud. This has to be government controlled, so you can control the data that comes in and out. And then you can allow everybody to install whatever kind of databases you want in health cloud. But if you control the API, the access, then you have the control, and then you can kick everybody out. And vendor login is easy. You said standard contract is like this. Every 3 years, you have to switch the vendor. And the part of the qualification of winning the tender is that you can demonstrate that you can hand it over to someone else. If you cannot do that, you're out. Well, it's simple.
Yeah, it also sounds so simple when you talk about it. But it took 10 years in the end, so can't be that simple. But it's a lot of things, and it's great advice. I mean, I understand collaboration is the key, but I'm sure you had a lot of challenges, and yeah. So Georgia, I'm sure you have the same when you're trying to implement the AI solution. And what is the biggest resistance that you encountered at implementing the AI? Was it institution or professionals or public?
So in the beginning, it was the fear of AI. We always had physician, clinician asking us, oh, they're going to replace us. Not at all. It's a co-pilot, as you were saying as well. That was the first initial thing, and I kind of want to thank Hollywood for the great movies on AI taking over the world, so they got really scared of it. Second step was IT, security measurements. How do we prove ourselves that we're not going to reuse this data? And then it took a lot of effort to prove ourselves with the reference sites, security measurements, security team, answering all the questionnaires. So I think those were the two difficulties we always have when implementing AI.
Yeah, security is really important. And we will have questions on that. We will discuss more. And Evan, you're the one that had experience throughout everywhere. I mean, the industry, different than academia. And then I figured that you would probably be the best person to answer, how do you think is important this kind of collaboration between the institution, academia, and the industry, and how to foster those?
That's an excellent question. When I was at Philips, I would never have a project without at least 2-3 academic collaborators. And my reasoning was the following. In industry, we always want, just like Henrik said, the quickest possible way to a result, but with very little money, if possible. So there are many in these novel technologies that are many open questions that academia can address. And they have very smart PhD students, postdocs. And to me, they would always bring insights that we had smart people, but we never had enough time to look at a theorem, prove a theorem. And I think theorem proving can sometimes save you a lot of money rather than burning GPUs. So I think there is this new movement when I was at CVPR in Seattle, the Tiny ML, which now is looking at new ways to design AI architectures that you don't have to spend that much money. And I think universities are best for that. And then governments and policymakers can really help in shaping the way data is governed and data is shared. And I was really impressed with the example from Poland this morning. Ligia gave a wonderful example today, because I think when we are looking at us as patients and individuals, I would have loved to have enough data so that my father could be cured from glioblastoma. But in the last decade or so, ASCO has been saying, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, how do we collect data so we can learn from every patient? And we all know that's very slow and painful, but the most important thing is, again, establishing standards, following standards, and that's how the collaboration can happen, where the policymakers can help us in that regard. And mandate all of this data sharing so that this can work on the benefit of patients.
Yeah, that's true. And safety is always a big question. And also from the patient side, they're always afraid that somehow data will be misused, but they're signing everything online all the time. And in this context, I mean, how do you actually secure safety and sharing the data in your cloud?
I think bringing all the applications for the healthcare sector into one cloud means you only have to check security one place. And that's the idea. So, and if you put it in one cloud, then you can spend a lot of energy and money on cybersecurity, and you can run every 3 months you run a penetration test from your semi-hostile approach to check that it actually works. And if you don't do that, then you at some point you will lose data. And we have not had a data leak in Denmark for the last 20 years. So I think we can safely say that this approach works. Have to be very diligent, and you don't trust anyone, but have to do it yourself. And you have to make sure you can document that it is impenetrable. Of course, the GDPR helps a lot, but basically, using your common sense and the right tools and allowing it to be done in one single place, consolidation is key. Because if we had 20 systems like most other countries, not all of these vendors will do it diligently, and you will have data leak. Eventually, that will happen. So consolidation and centralization, and then let people do their job. And use the tools. Use AI. AI is a great tool.
Yeah.
And there's a great tool. In the hands of the right people, use the right tools and let them do it. That's really important.
Yeah, again, easy. Yeah. And I mean, safety is the question for the data, but as well as in application. I mean, what being cultured, everybody is afraid of mistakes of AI, and also what happens if AI gets to my data. Will it improve or learning from my data? It will be a leaking of the data. So
we always used to get those questions.
Yeah,
We're used to it because today we have to prove that we never use data of our sites, hospital, using our solution. All the data is deleted as soon as we process and send back the results. We have high standard of security measurements, GDPR, HIPAA compliant, as well ISO certifications, and also work with the cloud, Google Cloud based in Belgium, with very high level of security. So that's how we can make sure that we do not use data. We can even present reports to our sites that everything is deleted from our cloud as well.
I have a provocative question for you.
I love this.
You return the data, but what about the models that you have built using the data from those hospitals? How are you thinking about the intellectual property in that regard and sharing back?
So we do have some reference sites that have access to our solutions before anyone else. These sites, we get data from them, and we work with them on developing the solutions. But we don't use data from the other hospitals that are just working with us normally.
Thank you.
And I think this actually brought, I thought of another question for safety, because from the last year panel, it was my question to Alex from Silico was, how he passes safety, or what, safety is always a question with FDA approval of drugs, and then you apply AI to develop safe drugs. How do you know they are safe? And he was always also the easy guy. It was easy. He simply doesn't use it in preclinical and clinical trials. That was his answer. But today I've heard that and you mentioned that there are companies using in clinical trial, which is a bigger safety issue. What do you think about that?
It is about how we use AI in this sense. For example, using AI to define and to extract information from phenotypes, because a lot of mouse models are developed in this preclinical phase, and it's usually the slowest phase, and many drugs fail. So that's why some of these drugs become $1 billion in 10 years, because of the safety and efficacy, and patient recruitment takes time. So designing virtual clinical trials and simulations, I think, with the available clinical data. So you're not simulating on patients, you're simulating on virtual patients. So that when you're introducing out of 10 possible molecules, you introduce the molecule that's hopefully with the lowest profile for toxicity and highest profile for efficacy of the drug.
Yeah, thank you. I have still more questions, but I think we have 5 minutes, so I will open the floor for questions from the audience if you have. Oh, yeah, please. Mike, I need, can I? Yeah.
Hey, I'm Andreana Disios from the Republic of Cyprus. It's a dual but short question. The first one has to do with the clinical trials per se. I mean, how can we compare the pace of development of in silico clinical trials with the traditional, which is still the benchmarking for approval? I need phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and I need, to follow the pace. Are we ready to change the endpoints? Where's the dialogue standing? And as you have the microphone, energy, okay, there is a lot of work, of course, but if we don't have the resources we need, and in this world we face, today, with such high risk for energy resources, to disappear, the whole system would collapse without sufficient energy. So the policy, has to go in parallel. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. I think this is more of an advice or a comment, but I'd like to respond. So in the world of clinical trials, one of the most difficult phases is recruiting for clinical trials. And if AI can help in recruitment so that you can recruit patients faster and also follow patients so that there is not too much time spent or we don't lose patients because that prolongs the time to collecting the data. I think that's one of the areas where AI can help. But also, just like I mentioned, there is always a heterogeneity of response. So along with the trial, if you're able to run some kind of a nanoscale parallel, like taking the information from molecular data, then we can also design biomarkers that can better target these drugs to the right patients. And again, then you can layer approvals for other indications and drug repurposing right on.
I'm Dr. Pavlovic from Niš, a nephrologist from the university. I've got at least 2 questions regarding this very successful introduction of digitalization in Denmark. If you analyze the data, did you find which category of the patients benefited the most of the introduction of this system? I mean, chronic CKD patients with chronic kidney disease, heart failure patients, or pulmonary patients, or whichever group?
So having the health cloud and the healthcare platform allowed us to make a fast implementation of large-scale remote patient monitoring for chronic disease patients with COPD and heart failure. And we have clinical trials published in 2017 documenting that each heart failure patient enrolled in telehealth can save 15 euros per patient per day. But this could be done because we had the basic platform.
And what was the drop of hospitalization in your patients during that period?
Well, the savings of 15 euros per patient per day was the savings from not going to the hospital mostly, but it was the full load of the patient. That was the full cost was the savings for 15.
Yeah.
Another question, if I may.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Short. Yeah, please, or without the mic.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't know about that technical problem. As a nephrologist, I'm looking at the role of environmental factors in the etiology of renal diseases and the cancer of urothelial tract. Since you've got all those data, did you analyze the correlation, actually the geographical distribution of various diseases, looking particularly at the geographical distributions of cancers? Because I'm looking at the role of aristolochic acids in the development of aristolochic acids in nephropathy and the urothelial cancers.
Having all the data in one platform allows us to export anonymized data to companies for research, but it is not the job of the government to do this research. They will make it available for research projects. So having the data in the platform is the basis for allowing research to happen. so they can get anonymized data for the research. But the actual research is not taking place per se from the government level, but is given to initiatives.
Thank you.
So we have another question there. Please.
Hello, I'm Martina Bosic. I'm a professor of pathology at University of Belgrade. Thank you for really nice lectures. I have two questions. One is for Dr. Dimitrova. So when we are doing research, we're using publicly available data sets because our own are not either available or very small. But what we are facing is that we need the curation of these public data sets. For example, TCGA, some of the cases that are there are actually not the tumor types that are supposed to be or should be reclassified. So where is the role of AI in the curation of such data?
Depends whether we are using this for developing models to generate hypotheses or to treat patients. I think when we're generating models to generate hypotheses, then you can impute the data and maybe, I know that my team had always found many mistakes of many published papers where a few patients seem to be outliers. You know, a patient head cannot be 4.5 meters. So it's like common sense. So I understand with the TCGA data, and we've had a very similar experience. But if it's for research purposes, yes. However, for developing a clinical biomarker, I think that really ultimately depends on good human curation, because we cannot go to the FDA for approval with curated data that's imputed with AI. Not now, at least.
Thank you. And the next question is for Henry Gibson. So, as a pathologist, I often have a feeling that clinicians and we pathologists and radiologists, we don't speak the same language. And there is a trend to create a synoptic reporting, which I highly support, but it's like, how did you make the consensus to have this type of synoptic reporting that is, on one hand, useful for creating anything that is good for society, but also for research, and not losing the data, because our reports can sometimes be very long.
I think the answer is not to put any view on specific data from the beginning. In the central system, in the central database, in the national platform, there is no specific use on data that goes more than anyone else. It's all data. It's just data. So the interesting part, if you have a lot of data, then you can add different viewpoints. Depending on where your interest lies, you extract data and put them in your report that is interesting for you. So each of the different groups of doctors, they have different views and different reports on the same database because they extract different systems. So the challenge is this. If we start with a minimum viable record that just has the minimal record data that is available in Serbia, this will not help you a lot. But over the time, when you expand this year by year, eventually you arrive at the point where the qualification and the resolution of the data is sufficient to provide all the specialist doctors with their particular view that will allow them to see things in the right way. And then they can start extracting data for research and for science that are specific for them. But aggregating all the databases under the same umbrella is the key to doing this, because if you don't have this aggregation, you cannot access these reports in a way. So I think standardization, aggregation, and in communication and all of this is key to arriving at a point where you can support different specialities and different purposes with the same data, anonymize them, and so on and so forth. So it's a journey. It takes time.
So we're in red, but I will use my authority just for one more question for Jojo, because I see many clinicians here, and now I'm thinking about the fear of AI and using the tools. When you're implementing already in some hospital, who are the champions? Who are the ones that are pushing it and saying they're a good solution?
So it depends, but what we normally see is the users, in our case, are mostly radiologists, emergency physicians, because they're getting the most benefits out of it. Sometimes we might see some management people that are really excited about AI to move forward with this, and then they kind of force the users to go through it. And once it's implemented and we cut it off for 1 week, we get calls like, where did the AI disappear? So it really depends, but mostly I would say the people getting the benefits from the AI, which are, in our case, the radiologists and ED physicians.
Oh, nice to hear that. I'm sorry, we're in red. So I want to thank to our speakers. Thank you all very much. It was really interesting hearing you all, and thank you all for coming here.